Welcome back, friends, to Build a Lot Acres. In today's video, we're going to be talking all about my experience raising meat birds. Stay tuned. Today's video is going to be about my experience raising meat birds for the first time. Things I learned, things that I would do differently if I do it again, things that I wouldn't do it again, would I do it again, all that kind of stuff. So this is going to be a really good video for other people that haven't done meat birds. Maybe you're thinking about it, you're kind of debating on it, because there's definitely things that you should consider that I wish I had known when I started. So let's get into today's video. Alright, so I think the biggest lesson, the biggest takeaway I should say, that I learned is I did way too many birds at one time. So the reason we had so many birds, we had 66 birds that we put in the freezer behind me, you saw in the previous video. The reason we had so many is because we did them for family members and friends as well. We were going to do 25 originally just for us. So we ended up with 66 birds instead of 25, which made a huge difference. You're almost tripling the amount of work in every area, letting them in and out, feeding them. You know, you need bigger feeders, you need a bigger waterers, watering more often, you need a bigger area to keep them, bigger trip to the butcher, more processing at one time. It was just too much work, honestly. Me and my wife both have full-time jobs away from the house. We don't work from home. We both work full time, so it was really hard to keep up with that and all the other stuff I do. I do the YouTube channel, and I do a lot of other personal things, obviously, I don't put on YouTube. So it was getting tough towards the end, and I was glad that 9 weeks was over. So the biggest mistake I made was doing too many birds at one time. If I do it again, it's going to be a much smaller amount of birds. I'm probably going to do somewhere in the 12 to 15 birds at a time. That's going to lead us into our next item, which is the second biggest mistake I think I made, and that is housing the birds. So I've seen a number of people use chicken tractors, which is basically just a coop that's mobile that you can move around your yard in different areas. The benefits of that are you don't have to let the chickens in and out, which is a huge time saver. And you also buy less feed because they'll be able to eat all the bugs in your lawn as you move this chicken tractor around your yard. And it's obviously predator proof, so there's less chance of a predator getting them versus regular free ranging, which in my opinion, especially the Cornish rocks I had, they cannot free range. They're not smart enough birds. You know, I'm used to my egg laying birds. I have a different number of varieties. I have Golden Lace Wyandottes. I have Rhode Island Reds. I have Jersey Giants. I have Buff Orpingtons. And they're all fairly intelligent. They can go 500 or 600 feet away from the house and always return at night. They'll be in a single file line, jumping into the coop. It looks like a little cartoon. It's really actually quite funny. But they're much smarter versus the Cornish cross that we had. Their coop door was literally 5 feet away from them, and they still weren't smart enough to go in at night. They would just sit down outside where they were. So predators could get them much easier, and it just didn't work out well. It was a hassle even getting them to go in at night. So the second biggest thing I would recommend and that I would do differently is I would use a chicken tractor. That's going to be easier to let them in and out, easier to feed them. I would probably make it in a way that I could put the feeder, make a big, PVC pipe or something on each side, one for water, one for food, have an outlet that just elbow with a straight up pipe, and then I could feed them water from the outside. The other big advantage of that is way less cleaning. You know, we had to clean our coop a couple of times a week because of how many birds we had over that 9-week stretch. So it was a lot of cleaning, a lot of work, and I think you could avoid a lot of that work and save money on food if you do a chicken tractor instead of a regular coop. So the third item I'm going to discuss isn't so much a mistake, it's just, good learning tool, good thing that I learned. And that is going to be making sure you have a plan for your processing. I thought I had a plan. My cousin was going to do it, and then he ended up getting really busy at work. He was working 7 days a week, so he couldn't commit to doing the birds. So I ended up having to go, quite a ways away from my house to get them done. And I had a friend of a friend that was able to do them. Super nice guy. I'm really glad that me and my wife went down there. We learned a lot about butchering and how to do it, but it was 75 miles from my house each way. So by the time we were done, that was like a 12-hour day, the day we butchered the birds, which was a really long day. I think if I had my own equipment and I did a smaller batch, like I said, I could probably do them in a few hours versus 12 hours. So if I'm doing 12 birds and the equipment's at my house, it's going to be much easier. Plus you could do 3 or 4 birds, take a break, as long as the birds you did are on ice. It doesn't really matter how many you do. If you drive 75 miles somewhere to do your birds, you're kind of stuck doing all the birds at once, and you're not obviously leaving until they're done. So that's the thing. Another thing I would recommend, like I said, it's not so much a mistake, it's just something I would tell you to consider, is make sure you have a solid plan for how you're going to process your birds. I know there's a lot of places, like there's a place in Rhode Island, I think it's called Buffoni's Poultry Processing or Chicken Processing, whatever they call it. It's in Johnson, Rhode Island. The problem with a place like that is, yeah, they're fast, but they also charge you around $5 a bird, and they package it for you, but they're not putting it on ice or in cold water to cool the temperature down. So from everything I've been told from different people that are familiar with chickens, that kind of makes the meat more rubbery, and you lose a lot of the benefits of having that homegrown chicken when you process and package right away and put it right into your freezer or your fridge. So in my opinion, I think you're better off learning to do it yourself. It's a good skill to have. Plus, if times get tough, you might want to know how to process your own meat. So I think the last thing I'm going to talk about is going to be the cost. I was kind of, I went into it a little bit naive. I had no clue what it would cost for food. I kind of figured it out roughly on paper, as close as we could, but we ended up being off, mainly in the amount of food they ate. Our Cornish Cross chickens ate a ton of food. And because we weren't really able to free range them due to how dumb they were, and other logistics, us not being home during the day to do what we need to do, we ended up spending a ton on food. I think we figured it out on paper, or my wife did, I should say, and we ended up spending around $21 per bird. That was our cost. And we didn't include a lot of the gas. Like I said, we drove 75 miles each way to get it processed. So you're probably talking at least a tank of gas there in my truck. You're talking, multiple trips to Tractor Supply to get food and other supplies. Plus you're talking all the money to set it up. I think a lot of people figure the cost per chicken. They're only figuring the food. They're not figuring any of the supplies they needed to get. They're not figuring obviously any labor. They're not figuring gas maybe. But we tried to figure everything and be honest and fair, because if you hear people tell you that they're doing it for 10 bucks a bird, please leave it in the comments below how you're doing that, because I would love to do it for half the price I did, because that was half my goal in the beginning, was to save money. The price of material and food and everything's just gone up so much in the last year or two that it's hard to do anything cheap now. But if you know cheaper ways to raise chickens and you've done it, please leave in the comments below, because I'm really curious how I can do this cheaper if I do it again next time. I made it sound pretty negative so far, and honestly, I don't think I would do it again. It was just too much work for what you get out of it. I do love seeing the freezer full of fresh chicken, but for the amount of work you put in for that 9 weeks, I think honestly you'd probably almost be just as well off to go to a farm stand or a store and buy fresh chicken. You can get organic chicken if you want. Or I know people are going to say, oh, you're going to pay $6-7 a pound, but if you have a 5-pound chicken and you're paying 30 bucks, you're really not paying all that much more than doing it yourself, because I paid $21 was my cost. That's not including my hours and hours and hours of labor. So like I said, it was an enjoyable experience. I'm glad I did it. But if I did do it again, which I'm not sure I would definitely do all the things differently that I discussed, and so forth. So I hope today's video gave you guys some food for thought, and maybe it'll lead you down the right road. on whether or not you want to raise your own meat birds. Like I said, if you're doing it for a money saving thing, I definitely wouldn't recommend it. You're not going to save all that much money, you're just going to create a whole lot of work for yourself. But if you're doing it for the experience and to say you did it, or to have farm fresh food in your freezer, then I would definitely recommend it for that reason. And I hope you guys enjoyed the video. See you next time.